50th anniversary. Here we go. Hao. Hello, beautiful people. My name is Lydia. Live the squid. Tong Lei. All of the above. Thank you for making the choice to see what our conversation is going to be about today. And, drum roll please, today we are going to be discussing my first marathon. Yes, I said marathon, not half marathon, not a 3K, not a 5K, marathon. I was once a person who could run for 5 minutes and then be on my knees on the floor, panting for breath. And now, just gonna say, I did that. But I did not do that overnight. And I did not do it of my own strength. I will give all the praise, honor, and glory to God above, who instilled in me the hope that we are capable of accomplishing things beyond our wildest imagination. One of the most wholesome aspects of my marathon experience was the day of the race, showing up and witnessing all of the many people, the thousands of people that came out to participate in a health-focused event. It was something that brought my heart so much joy to see all of these people coming together as a community, not only in the pursuit of greatness to complete 26.2 miles, but also to enjoy the weather, to enjoy each other. If you didn't know, the Honolulu Marathon is one of the only marathons that you do not have to qualify for in order to participate in. There were so many people there that were content to walk the entire way, but they added to the atmosphere that we got to experience that day. Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. And that was by far one of the most delightful aspects of the whole experience. Realizing that so many of us were there not as a way to be better than the person next to us, but to encourage everyone around us to complete what they had set out to do. It was such a beautiful experience, and I would highly recommend it to anyone. In this video, I want to take the time to reflect upon my marathon experience. We're feeling good. It's a beautiful morning. It's nice and cool. And we're so excited. Not just on the marathon itself, but in the period of time leading up to the marathon. Because as so many of us have come to understand and to appreciate, that life is less about the destination and more so about the journey and the joy that we get to experience on the journey. We're playing Katy Perry! Yay! I'm so excited. I'd also like to share some things that I learned along the way. This video will not be a comprehensive marathon training plan, but it will provide you some of the insight that I picked up through my own research and a lot of the things that I learned through the experience. So let's begin. As a disclosure, I'm not special. This is something that anybody can do, and there are some people who make the choice to stay very far away from any kind of marathon, and that's okay too. But if you are one of those crazy people like myself who has an idea that they themselves could one day cross the finish line of a marathon, I think that you'll find some of the things that we share today to be helpful to you in your journey. After being invited by some friends of mine to run the Honolulu Marathon with them, I said yes without too much of a thought. As someone who is always looking for a way to challenge myself, it was a no-brainer. But what did require, not rocket science, but some amount of some brain juice was a training plan. Because for a race of this magnitude, a plan is required. Now, there are some people who kind of ham-scram things. They'll show up, they'll get serious a couple of weeks, maybe a month before the marathon, But I will tell you that allowing your body the time to build an aerobic base and to truly build confidence in yourself that you are capable of accomplishing such a distance, time is your friend. So be sure that you sign up for a marathon a year or 6 months in advance. For me, we signed up as a group in July. So I had from roughly July to December 11th, race day, to condition my body for such a athletic feat. And so what did I do? I consulted my good friend, Google teacher, Google Lauscher. One of the first results from Google Lauscher was Higdon, a marathon training plan that increases in difficulty from what is titled to be a novice training plan all the way to something of an expert plan, someone who has had much experience competing and participating in marathons. For myself, I started browsing at level 2. I quickly realized, as someone who already had some degree of running experience, that I definitely fell into the novice 1 category. So I will leave a link down below to the same training plan that I used in preparation for the Honolulu Marathon. But to provide some examples of the Hal Higdon method, beginning week 1, you're running for 4 days, you're resting for 2, and you have a cross-training day for 1. The week is set out in a certain way so that you have time to rest before your long runs on the weekend. So whatever day that is best for you. For me, that was sometimes Friday, that was sometimes Saturday. It would change from week to week, but I always made sure to give myself that rest period before my long run. During the week, the 3 runs that you do are typically shorter runs. Your first run would be anything from 3 to 5 miles. Your second run will range anywhere from 3 to 10 miles, and then your third run would range anywhere from 2 to 5 miles. So you can see the progression. If you look at the training plan, those 3 days are back to back to back with a rest day before. After these 3 days of running, you have a rest day. After that rest day would be your long distance run. And then, if you're feeling up to it, that following day would be your cross-training day. Now, there are some weeks after you start getting up into greater amounts of distance that after your long run on the weekend, you have an additional rest day on the day following. You would run 3 miles, 6 miles, 3 miles. You would rest one day, rest another day, and then the following day would be your first half marathon. From my own experience, that was definitely a heck of a milestone. I remember arriving at that point, having the sense that I was already halfway there. A standard week with the long run on the weekend being something of 12 miles. Your week would be a 4 mile, an 8 mile, a 5 mile, a rest day, 12 miles, and then a cross-training day the day thereafter. Don't get stuck on the day of the week that each of these runs are scheduled for. I definitely took the creative liberty to move those days around to fit my schedule. This would be the general guidance that I followed for the 6 months leading up to the Honolulu Marathon. And based on my own experience, as someone who before beginning training had only ran a recorded 5 miles to being able to comfortably cover long distances, your body adapts. You break barriers and you learn so much about yourself. Something else that I would like for us to consider is that during our marathon training, that the majority of our training should not be at a full-out sprint. According to the literature, there seems to be a consensus that the majority of our work, the majority of our resistance training, the majority of our cardiovascular training should be in what is referred to as Zone 2. Zone 1 would be something like walking through a mall or walking your dog and just being very casual, slow pace. Zone 2 would be a good jog, but a jog where you are able to maintain a conversation, where your heart does not feel exhausted or worn out. Zone 3 is moving into a category where sprints are included. So keep in mind that upwards of 80% of our training should be in the category of Zone 2 training. During your training phase, it might occur to you that you would still like to go to the gym or to enjoy other activities. And that is not only something that you can do on your cross-training day. On my cross-training days, I would either make a trip to the gym, or I would go on a hike. I would do some surfing, some roller skating. So during the week, my shorter runs were always the first and the third day of that 3-day running segment. And on that day 1 and day 3 of that segment, if my run was anything under 5 miles, I would still take an opportunity, usually in the afternoon, to do a short gym session. Now, during these gym sessions, your strength is not going to be the same as it was before getting into your marathon conditioning. And that is expected because you are exerting a lot of energy by maintaining such a consistent running schedule, and that's fine. But I do think that resistance training is important when it comes to maintaining an overall level of well-being and fitness. Especially be mindful to train legs, because running is not training legs. Okay, honey boo boo child. I know running makes your legs tired, but running is not training legs. My advice would be that you take some time to do some research about how you can strengthen the muscles on the front of your leg, your tibialis muscle. Do some research on how you can maintain flexibility to include some movement that is specific for range of mobility, and to also consider that strengthening your legs, strengthening your calves, strengthening your quads, your hams are going to make you that much more efficient as you progress through your training. When it comes to hydration, you have a couple of options, and I would urge you to make your decision based on whatever distance you're going after that day. As an example, if I were to be running anything under 8 miles and the weather was nice and mild that day, I was running earlier in the day so as to avoid the highest UV index. I would bring something that I actually got recently as a Christmas present. A handheld can hold 12 ounces of water, so this should be taken out for max of an hour and a half on a run. There is a small bottle on the inside. You can pull it out, you can spin off the lid, refill from the top. And it has a bite nozzle, so as you bite, you can squeeze the water into your mouth. It also has this very handy compartment in the front where I like to keep my car keys. I will usually take my car fob off and leave my bulky set of keys in the car. I will put in a couple of gels or some salt tablets, whatever I might need for a short run, which usually isn't much, which is why it's very nice to have this smaller container. And it's also something, let's say as an example, you're doing a 2-hour run, you can have it full, do an hour, come back to your car, refill it, and then do another hour. So that is also an option. If you're going out on something of a long stretch of distance and you would rather not return to your car or to wherever your base station is, then I would recommend a water bag. So this is one that I also got as a birthday present last year. It is a Deuter brand bag, but this has a place where inside you have a compartment in which you can slide a bladder. I like to keep mine frozen, which prevents mold. And then, as an added bonus, there is so much space. So if you're doing something with 15 miles plus, and you're going to be away from your car and your base station for a period of time, then I would highly recommend something like this. It has breathable straps, it has a tarp that you can pull out and put over your bag in the case that it starts raining and you want to protect some of the content that you have inside. There are pockets where I've kept a small first aid kit because some of us are more accident prone than others. But this is great. You strap it on, click it around your chest. It has pockets on the side where I like to keep my phone while I'm running. And this bladder can hold up to 2 liters of water, which lengthens the amount of time that you could be away from your base station and not have to make a pit stop. As far as fuel during a run, now let's talk about nutrition. Peanut butter jelly time. Some of the things that I enjoyed during my training phase and that I still enjoy during my pleasure runs, as I like to call them, would include some gels. So gels are a great source of carbohydrates, some of the minerals that we are losing, electrolytes, potassium, sodium, all can be found in a convenient packet. You rip off the top and you squeeze it into your mouth. It will tell you on the back of a gel. These should be consumed 5 before and every 45 minutes during. So I would like to stretch that. Generally, I would not eat one before. I would eat one about every hour, depending on what other snacks that I might have. One of the snacks that I enjoyed quite frequently were honey stinger waffles. These come in all sorts of zany flavors. They're nice and thin, crispy, easy to digest as you're running, and is a great fuel source during a run. Chews or gummies are another great option. These gummies have 80 milligrams of sodium, they have 18 grams of carbs, and they also have 13 grams of sugar, but they are flavored with real fruit. So that is something to consider. Sugar is going to be a fast source of energy during your run. These also contain 50 milligrams of caffeine per packet. So if the entire packet is 2 servings, 25 milligrams of caffeine, that is also something that you should take into consideration when consuming gels or goos, because some of these gels and goos contain anywhere from 20 to 45 milligrams of caffeine. Just keep in mind how your body responds to caffeine, and perhaps even place a cap on what your caffeine intake should be for the day to keep yourself within a healthy range. Something else that can be used to replace electrolytes lost during exercise would be salt tablets. So this is a brand that I found that I enjoyed. Salt Stick Electrolyte Fast Chews. These are a peach flavor. I also have a mixed berry flavor. These contain sodium, potassium, calcium, and magnesium. They help to maintain electrolyte levels, reduce heat stress, reduce muscle cramping, boost stamina, and I can vouch that the stamina aspect comes from having your nutrients replenished, because if you are outside on a very warm day and you are running and you are just seeping out nutrients, popping one of those tablets into your mouth as you're running along, not only is it a great flavor, but you will experience a difference in your energy levels without any measure of caffeine. Almost 16 miles and a beautiful view. Depending on the distance of your long run on the weekends, you should consider carb loading. For myself, anything that was over 10 miles, I would begin a day before. My intention was to make sure that the things that I were consuming were primarily good sources of carbs. So instead of having some beef jerky, I might have some pretzels. Or instead of having a protein shake after a run in the morning, I might consume half of a bagel or half of an English muffin, depending on what the rest of my day looked like. Carb loading goes back to ensuring that the stores of glycogen that you have in your liver and your kidneys are sufficient to bring you through a distance run. I would advise that you do some further research, that you better understand carb loading and begin to experiment the same way that I would suggest that you do with all of the things that I have recommended in this video, because each individual is going to have different needs and their body is going to respond in different ways to the things that they are consuming. So these are the goods. This is what I'm taking with me for race day. I got a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I got a little bit of pre-workout over there in that little orange container. I have some carb sources as well as some electrolyte sources in the form of Tailwind and Scratch. I have 1 pack of energy blocks. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 gels, most of which are okay, so that one does have a little bit of caffeine, but we're keeping all of these things in mind. close to 20 miles in. 6.2 to go. My hat does not stay scented.
There's Brooke Morris, everybody. Here comes Jacob Simmons, Tatum Neely, and Manuel Harlow.
No way. Thank you. Official, guys. We finished. We freaking did it. We freaking did it, guys. And I did it quicker than I thought I would. But with that in mind, I wanted to share my post-race duties. So I got my finisher shirt. Super excited. Beautiful green color, my goodness. I got Nana. And if you know, you know. I got a fresh malasada. Thank you for your time and thank you for your curiosity. Our discussion does not have to end here. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, criticisms, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Reach out to me on social media. If there are any questions that you have, I will make my best effort to answer those questions for you. It is my hope that you have learned something today, that you have learned something that you can apply to your life. Don't eat the elephant whole. Eat the elephant one bite at a time, and whatever dreams or aspirations you have will come to fruition. Speak it into existence, believe it for yourself, and then get after it. Mahalo.